Yum. It's rich in bunly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reina Creole, bringing that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And welcome to another installment of After School Specials, which is where we record guests who can't make it to the lunch table live session, so we just meet with them after school. And let me bring up my after school co host. Here we have Fat Steven Seagal with the crazy Joker mask. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right. How are you? I'm feeling like a
I'm
facelift.
that literally, right? I like the flashing lights going on.
I'm kind of a dork, so I had a bunch of those LED strips usually put in computers. So it has a sensor that can pick up sound. So when I'm talking, it's going to sort of light up because I don't have a personality. So this will make it look like I have a personality.
Well, pretty soon I will have some LED light action going on. As soon as I finish configuring it all, but it'll look like a nice rave in here a little
Are you
bit.
really quiet? Or is it just me? I can't tell. Is the volume levels down?
Am I really quiet?
I can't tell. I'm trying to figure it out.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's a lot quieter than it was.
Like 2 seconds ago?
Yeah.
That's really weird. How
Because
about
my
now?
volumes are at max.
How about now?
One more time.
How about now?
You're still a little quiet, but I can deal with it.
That's really weird. I don't want to blow your, because I have my
You can't
volume
blow
all the
my
way up
ears.
here.
Keep going.
This is kind of normal, but I'll tell you what, we'll check. Let's bring in our
Oh, okay.
guest.
I'm sorry. That was the best banter ever. Can we hear each other? No, we can't hear each other.
Can you
What's
hear me?
going
Can you hear me
on?
now? Can you hear me now?
Verizon has sponsored this show, even though we don't really use Verizon.
No.
Hint, hint, Verizon.
No. But we'll bring in our third party who can do the deciding vote here. So I know I've seen him mostly on Twitter, and he has a awesome channel that's going on with lots of stories and stuff. So I am very, very excited to bring on StoryManJack. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. I just uploaded horror story number 9 for the Halloween playlist.
So
Cool.
you've met my ex-girlfriend, and it's about her.
I've been married 3 times, so I got all the material I need.
Woo!
Wow, this just got dark and humorous at the same time.
I hear that. I hear you remind me of Ron White with that line.
As long as you still got a roof over your head, she didn't take everything.
I got my truck.
Hey, you got that right.
And the body's in the back of the truck, but we don't talk about that no
more. This last one was because of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, I work at night, so it was already difficult because she had 2 kids. One was 10 and the other one was 14, but he was autistic. And so he needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
I mean, he's functional. He's a very good kid, very quiet and stuff, but he gets aggravated easily. Well, and then she was a massage therapist and couldn't work. So I couldn't sleep. So our arguments were very, very vitriolic because
I'm sorry to hear that.
But, I mean, it is what it is. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't my fault. It's just the way it kind of hashed out. But yeah, I mean, you gotta laugh at it. You gotta move on. I'm 46 years old and I've lived in 2 worlds my entire life. So I just let stuff go and vent, when nobody's looking, if I can.
Well, that's a really great outlook because there's only so much you can control, and when you can't anymore, you know what? It's like it's best to just go to the next thing.
Right.
That's waiting. That's waiting for you.
It gave me the opportunity to write more. It gave me the opportunity. I'm learning the guitar right now.
Oh, cool.
My original stories got copyright claimed because
I'm sorry.
I got The Boy in the House. I used music from Adobe Stock for the background, and they wouldn't accept the license from Adobe Stock. So
that doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
That's what they did?
Yeah. I went ahead and hit the dispute button, put my license number from Adobe Stock in there, and they denied it.
They can't do that, can they?
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
They can. They can. You know, like when they were slapping my Welcome to Florida streams for a while, they're taking them down, and then I had to appeal it. And they're like, well, we didn't find anything, but we don't feel that it's appropriate for audiences under 18. They slapped a restriction on there. But lately, they've been leaving me alone. But I actually got a response, and someone said, you got a response? Yeah, because they don't tell you what it is that you violate. And I had to tell them, you need to tell me what it is that I violated because I don't see anything. And then that's like, oh, we're sorry, we slapped a restriction on it. It's ridiculous, but that's good to know because I have the Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah, I use it. I get it discounted through work, so that's what I use.
Yeah, I get a discount for since I'm taking community college classes. That's like the best bargain ever. Take classes at a community college, and you get some crazy discounts. So that's the only reason why why I have it. So. Yeah, Jack. So since I have you here, it's like I mostly know you, like I said, from Twitter.
Yeah.
From your stories that you post. I know, you have a YouTube channel, and even more infamously, what happened with that crazy heifer known as was it Gail Simone?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. Gail Simone. Tell us a little bit about that because
she said something about derogatory about Star Wars and how nobody in Star Wars ever got laid. And everybody was in the art community was posting back, well, it's a kids movie. Mm-hmm. And obviously one person did because there's twins, So I said, I tweeted back, I said, because she said something about Ryan. So I tweeted back, I said, this is how we view you, basically. You're a vitriolic victim who has leveraged their victimhood into destroying things that we love. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I read Wonder Woman when she first started, and it was good. But she's become an activist and done all this stuff. Well, she posted, and she wasn't even genuine about it, but she went to my channel. Mm-hmm. And she posted some views from my videos. I've got, at the time, 174 subs. Mm-hmm. Everybody who subbed me are people in the community. They're not normies.
Right.
I'm just writing. I'm not trying to make money.
Just doing what you like to do.
Yeah, it's a hobby. Mm-hmm. Plus, if I get enough comments, I grow. People tell me what they don't like about something. I can listen to them and understand.
Right.
So I just laughed at her. And I went from 172, 174 subs to 201 in like 2 days.
Nice.
Because I just reposted. I said, you're just going to help me grow. Thank you. And she blocked me as soon as I said that.
Were any of them refrigerator repairmen by chance?
No.
The last good thing she read was something about a fridge.
Yeah, something about
where she lives is a fridge. I don't know.
Something like that.
This chick, I know when she posted that, I was just like, get a grip, because it wasn't even funny.
Well,
and she comes back at me and says, "Oh, you don't get jokes." I said, and I retweeted it with my comment, said, "Oh, I get jokes. Yours just wasn't very funny." And I thought she was going to block me, and dang it, she didn't.
Oh, she blocked me.
I was waiting for that to happen, but I saw that.
I saw what happened was one of the people that were like on her side suddenly liked one of my tweets, and then she blocked me.
Because as soon as you go against the narrative,
Well, that's what I told her. I said,
they don't pretend you don't exist. That's how they work.
said, you can laugh at me all you want. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to enjoy myself. That's why when I use Twitter, mostly it's to promote other people.
Where's my promotion?
And the thing is, man, I do have to come up with that promotion coupon for you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's been live and said, I need to put you up to a full nugget, so I need to make that.
Hey, no more nuggets. What is this? Okay, I don't eat the nuggets.
Well, I'll say,
you know what? I can't get angry because
food of your choice.
Yeah, I'll honestly send you a Amazon list of like Sour Keys or Sour Patch Kids, because as much as the nuggets isn't that bad, it could always be a coffee enema. So I'm
the thing about McDonald's nuggets is that you can stack them in the corner and build a castle out of them, and a year later you can still eat them.
Whoa, okay.
Because they never go bad.
That is scary.
I once saw a video of somebody leaving a hamburger on the counter for 2 weeks, and it looked exactly the same.
I saw that, like, they had a hamburger from a fast food restaurant, and then a hamburger
it was McDonald's.
From a regular, the
bugs never touched the other one. Yeah,
like, so the one from the restaurant, it had like mold and stuff on it.
Yeah,
that's nasty.
Yeah, it was
so nasty.
It was pretty gross.
It's just like putting they actually did put a mouse in a glass of Mountain Dew, and it was gone the next day. Yeah. So this is the way my mind works. When I hear stuff like this, I will follow a rabbit hole until it takes you to places that you never thought existed, and you really didn't want to know existed. I've always been that way, though.
But that's kind of like what you have to do when you're a writer, don't you think?
Yeah, and it gets me in trouble.
You're gonna get me like losing the chicken nugget deal due to the fact you're gonna write a scary story about killer chicken nuggets, and I won't be able to eat them.
I once wrote a story about an accountant murderer who used a chili cook-off to poison his entire staff.
That's actually
did it work?
Freaking brilliant.
Yeah. He worked for a company like I don't know, Dole, and he had been working there since the inception of the company and got passed over for every promotion. Basically, he was an accountant who counted cans. He kept track of their cans. So they had a chili cook-off using their special tomatoes, and he put oleander in it.
Ooh.
And they announced when he won the chili cook-off, just before everybody dies, that they were promoting him to head of the accounting department. And then everybody dies, and he goes to jail.
Dang.
So
I got words for that. That's messed up, and please stop ruining fast food for me.
That's something I would freaking like to see, like,
You're
on
still
screen.
quiet.
Because it reminds me of, granted, he got away with it, like the movie Office Space,
right,
where they were planning to like rip off the company, and then they were, they're trying to figure out what to do with the money to like put it back.
Yeah.
And then dude with his stapler, and he's like, if I don't get my stapler, I'm gonna burn the building down. And it turns out the whole thing burned down, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're scot free now. It's like little twists like that, in writing that makes like films or TV or even books like memorable, just like that twist that you would put on it. So what got you into writing in the first place?
I was 8. I was in the 3rd grade, and I have I guess you could call it a high IQ. And I was bored. I was bored in school. I never even did my math.
Really?
But I had a teacher. Her name was Mrs. Goodwin.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a small school. And you know how you had to write your spelling words 10 times each, and then you had to put it in a sentence so you knew what context to use it in, that stuff. Well, we had 10 spelling words, and if you read my sentences, they made a story. And I used my spelling word in each sentence, and then if you read them in order, they were a story. And my teacher told me I was going to be a writer someday. So but really it started when I was 3, and I saw Star Wars for the first time.
Nice.
Wow.
In like I said, the back of my parents' El Camino. I was 3.
In a drive-in?
Yeah, in a drive-in, and Dad said that when all the way home, I kept talking about where this place was that they were at, and he kept telling me it was made up, and I'm like, how do people make stuff like that up? I wanted to know, and he's like, well, they wrote it, they just created it, and I'm like, I want to do that. So I bugged my mom for like a week. I was 3, and she bought me my first book, and it was a Bible. It was a book of Bible stories, and I learned how to read before I was 4 years old because I wanted to create. So I've always had my hands and stuff in that. You know what I mean? Since I can remember. And, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in rural Texas and rural Oklahoma. So, and I was a latchkey kid on top of that. So I get on the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to school, get home at 5 in the evening, be by myself or with my little brothers until 9 or 10 o'clock when my parents got home from working. So back then, I think there were 3 channels. So I made up stories.
Three channels and PBS, which no one really watched.
I watched PBS.
I didn't watch PBS that much.
I still had GI Bill when I got out, so I went to culinary school after, the year after I got out of, but just because I wanted to learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Not to do it.
But also, didn't PBS also have like the Fraggles on Sundays as well as like Disney?
Yeah.
As you would catch the rare stuff.
So I know I didn't.
Maybe in Canada it was different.
It was much different in Canada because you got to remember, PBS is funded by our government and donations. So your version of PBS would be funded by your government and donations, and they would just pick and choose the programming. Mostly what we had was nature, cooking shows,
Sesame Street.
That was about it.
Your documentary that every once in a blue moon was actually interesting, to
Bob Ross.
watch.
And my favorite cooking show was Justin Wilson because he told stories, and that's what he was actually known for.
Yeah, I remember his show. Yeah.
I grew up on Paul Harvey, listening to Paul Harvey every Sunday because I would ride around with my dad in his truck, and he would listen to Paul Harvey. The rest of the story. But that's the generation I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. So I grew up having to create my own universe and friends, and I was really shy and awkward child. So, and I was a big baby when I was born. I weighed almost 12 pounds, and my mom was 90 pounds when she got pregnant.
Wow.
So my dad's nickname for me growing up was Fat Boy, which gives a kid kind of a problem. Yeah. Especially when you got, cousins that are just a year or two older than you, that live with you or around you, who tease you about being fat all the time. And I wasn't fat, I was chubby. And then I got into high school and I played football. So, I was 6 foot, 250 pounds. I wasn't chubby. I just thought I was.
So it comes back to that self-image thing, right?
Yeah.
It only takes a certain amount of time someone's saying something to you, believe it. And I get that point of view because my family kind of the same thing. One thing was it was constantly because our household was always in disruption before they got divorced, and one of them was if you're going to amount to nothing, you're going to be working at McDonald's the rest of your life, and you're never going to go anywhere. And because of that mentality of being constantly said to me, I never applied to McDonald's just to avoid that future. But on the opposite coin, it was also like I heard things like if you have nothing positive to say, never open your mouth, which is never healthy because if you have to share something about you, even if it's a negative story, so you can vent it out. You have to. And like the same thing with saying how you were big boy or big boned, whatever, or fat. It does put an image on you, especially at a young age. and that scar grows. And as you get older and get more thick-skinned, the only place that doesn't get thick-skinned is that scar, depending on the personality and how much it affects you.
Oh yeah, and now that I'm older, I'm grateful that I went through that, because especially with my writing, you can trash my writing all day long. I don't care, because ultimately you're just helping me.
Yeah.
And that's what made me so upset about the Star Wars stuff.
Oh.
It was more about, yes, they ruined it, but it was more about how they reacted to our reaction of it.
Yes. And that's not a reaction that I ever thought that I would see, because historically in fandoms, because people would take issues with like, oh, I don't like this with this Star Trek movie, or I don't like how this episode of Next Gen went, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or I didn't like that episode of Stargate. But the people would take that criticism, because even before social media, people were doing write-in campaigns. People were calling production offices. They were saying, okay, you need to be polite but insistent. And the studios and the television and production companies would take that information. They wouldn't slander the fans. If anything, it was like, okay, well, we appreciate, the fact that you love the franchise so much that you're willing to let us know. But there was still that atmosphere of respect for the fan,
Right.
even when they didn't like something. Now, especially with Star Wars, how dare we have the nerve to not like something?
Right.
Because automatically you're either phobic, isic, or isms. Because it's so much easier to throw a word at a person to make them look like they hate something, or they're against a certain person or xenophobic, than accept the fact that criticism both comes in positive and negative. And the only way you can adapt yourself to understand where you messed up, or where you're trying to get all the types of crowds to enjoy your story, movie, book, or whatever, is by listening. And right now, the world has refused to listen to opinion, and they have called it harassment, because it's easier to play the whiny little, excuse my language, bitch, than to play a human being who realizes that you're not perfect, you're gonna mess up.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing. I honestly, when this fall first started, honestly think it started by accident. Disney did not intentionally go out to ruin this, or to inject politics into it, or do all this. I think they were lost.
But they might have been lost, but they still had George, all the EU, and if they didn't want to go down, let's go down a mitochondrial level, or the inner space of the Force, they could have literally tapped into the EU and adapted a story. I'm dropping a
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they could have done it.
But you don't say, we're going to go at this, and then pretend that you had no source material when there's been decades of comics, books, audio book. You know what I mean? It's like, we know there's stuff going on. We know we grew up on the stories, waiting to see it on film again. And you're saying, well, we had no source material. Really? You had no source material? Okay.
That they rip off all the time.
Exactly.
Just like Mandalorian. The whole crate dragon scene was straight out of KOTOR.
And here's the thing. It's like, I didn't, and I kind of try to explain this to people. It's when it comes to Star Wars lore, one of the things that people have to keep in mind is that most people only have that fundamental level of canon when it comes to Star Wars, meaning the Star Wars movies. Like, the only thing that I knew about the crate dragon was that Obi-Wan used the call for that in A New Hope, and he had said that the Sand People were afraid of that. So that was my frame of reference, that whatever the crate dragon was, it was probably some big ass badass thing that if, a species as badass as the Sand People were scared of it, it must be something else, to behold and to see. And then after I saw the season 2 premiere episode, and I started hearing stuff that you were saying, Jack, like they said, well, they ripped that straight out of KOTOR. And I was like, well, where the heck did that pearl come from? Because it looked like they were real happy to find it. So where does that was the whole point?
That was the whole point of the game. Was that you had to get that pearl, or the person that you were helping had to get that pearl. That was the point of the quest. But the issue isn't that they're isn't just that they're mining from the EU, and the issue isn't just, and it's part of it, that they threw it out like it was trash and they're mining from it. The problem is that they're mining from it and they're taking some of the best parts of it and then ruining it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they took the Dark Force Rises parts and put it in Rise of Skywalker, they ruined that book for me. Because they took a good element from that book and then injected it in some place that didn't belong. And ruined that. That's my problem with them cribbing stuff from the EU, is because I can't trust them to treat it with the respect it deserves.
And I think that's what it boils down is respect for the source material. Because once you had Kathleen Kennedy taking over with that, the orders come down from the top. That's how it goes. How they were disrespecting all of that. Because I would think that if you got something from the EU and it's kind of like, okay, how can we use this and how can we make it better, but keeping all of those lines of canon intact? And that seems to be the issue when I tell people. It's like you can improve on it, you can do other things, because that's what the EU was all about. Granted, I only read like 2 EU books, but I expected that when I read the EU books, that they would line up with all the canon from the 6 movies. And I think with Lucasfilm, when Kathleen Kennedy took over, and you saw all of this with just, with the travesty known as The Last Jedi and the rise of Skywalker, which I refuse to see, they just didn't respect it. They didn't respect the lore at all. And it seems like in The Mandalorian, they're trying to right the ship, although it.
Too much nostalgia, but no explanation behind
yes,
nostalgia.
And
loses the whole point.
You can't just give me member berries and expect for me to say, "Oh, it's okay."
Which is why The Force Awakens confused so many people. So I watched it as just midnight, first showing, as soon as I could. And it bothered me. I didn't know why it bothered me, because I knew it wasn't great. I knew it was on the level of the Phantom Menace. But I also gave Phantom Menace a pass because George was starting from point zero.
Right.
And there were so many expectations for him that he's like, how do I start this story? Personally, I think he should have started it when Anakin was a teenager, but that's just me. So I was trying to give The Force Awakens a pass, so I went back and saw it again because I had to take my son to see it. And it just bothered me, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, the 4th time I went and saw it, I knew the point where it bothered me was as soon as they introduced Han Solo.
Really?
As soon as they said that he was a lying, scheming shit father, that's what bothered me. Because the EU shows that change was made. That's the real reason he didn't want to play Han Solo anymore, was because he said point blank, that character arc is complete. He's changed. It's done. That's why he didn't want to play that character anymore. So
he hated Solo too, right? He hated being Solo.
Yeah, he hated being him. He didn't, and then so they reset him back. And the EU covers a different journey that he takes, where he's now this altruistic person, but now he's got to think about politics and family. And that's what's so great about the EU, is because he does progress on a new story arc, instead of rehashing the one that he had before and then killing him before he completes it.
I have a question to add to that, Jack. Do you think Force Awakens was more or less a New Hope light?
I think it was made that way so that it gave everybody a point of reference.
But do you think is that what hinders it too? Also, because the way
absolutely.
Because the way they introduced the characters, especially let's focusing on Finn, and so many people have talked about this. Finn could have had the arc of the new Jedi, and Rey could have been someone who was Force sensitive, and then led to the dark, and you would have had the 2 main characters facing off against each other. But on second thought, they brought in Kylo, and this whole weird force projected romantic nonsense that just made no training ever, and they were all just connected through like one giant force Skype call.
Right. Because they couldn't think of ideas. They couldn't come up with ideas, so they were cribbing ideas from other things.
And so that goes back to the whole no source material thing when they had all the source material available.
Right. And it's my opinion, it's always been my opinion, that the Disney Star Wars trilogy should have been Legends. Let me grab it real quick.
Absolutely. Especially the arc of Jason Solo.
Well, it should have been Legacy, is what I'm saying. Legacy takes place like 150 years in the future. So it's
okay, that one. Yeah,
Cade Skywalker.
I just finished Sacrifice, so that's why I'm kind of like.
And they could have taken and skipped 45 years in the future and picked up with the Yuuzhan Vong.
That's what I wanted. Yuuzhan Vong, man.
I totally. I mean, granted, again, minimal level of canon. If you would have gone that far into the future, that would have tripped my brain saying, you know what, I'm interested to find out what happened.
Yep.
What happened?
And then they could have spun off so much. They could have said, okay, now we're going to do a Luke Skywalker movie about him from the time to rebuilding the Jedi. They could have done that. They could have done cartoons with that. They could have. There's so much they could have done. And what makes me so upset is these are supposed to be the smart people.
It's not. You know what? It's not about smarts in Hollywood. And I tell people this after living among these crazy people in LA. It's not even about really money per se. It's about who you know. Who you know, where you know the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
And the people who have the most to lose by you revealing that information.
I think that's the biggest drawback to losing the studio, the old studio model. Mm-hmm. There were definitely things very wrong with the studio model, don't get me wrong. But because they went away from that and it was everybody for themselves, it got cutthroat.
Absolutely. It's like even when I was living out there, I could see that some person didn't get hired because they didn't like so-and-so's PA, or they didn't have the right look, or you know what, we want someone with the same agent. And that blew my mind when I realized it wasn't about talent. It wasn't about, your, I don't want to say your audition tape, but your length of accomplishments or anything you wrote. It was all about who you knew and whose ass you kissed the most. Because frankly, I can't remember the last really big thing that Kathleen Kennedy ever really did. I remember her name. I remember her getting producer credit. But other than that, I'm like, this is the person that you picked.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that she's done a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but it's mostly been money stuff. Like all of her big accomplishments were getting money to produce these films.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, for me, it's like, okay, well, you're doing the money thing, but what about the creative thing? And that's, as a casual fan looking at film and television, what's the last thing that had your visible fingerprints on that I could see? What's something that you wrote? What's a screenplay that you wrote? What's something that you directed? It's like that's what I'm looking at.
And that's why I think that some of the mistakes she made were honest mistakes. So she put people very creative. Mm-hmm. This is what she did. She knew she wasn't creative. So she put people that were very, very creative in charge of stuff, mm-hmm. and let them do what they wanted. That's why she had to go back and trip over Solo, because she went back and go, oh my God, what have they done? They went way too far, because she had no idea.
Okay.
That's my interpretation. I could be wrong, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Just like I believe, because I heard that the story treatments that George Lucas gave them had a whole lot to do with the wills. And the wills are these creatures that actually control the Force, that are like a different dimensional being. And it's so far out there that I honestly believe that they sat around, that Bob and Kathleen and whoever else sat around and went, nobody's going to understand this. It's like the midichlorian thing. They're going to freak out.
Yeah, that did.
So they just went the other way and said, what can we do with this? What can we? I think that was the problem.
I know, for me, looking in on it, and I can kind of buy that, but the thing that trips me up the most, if there wasn't this agenda out there that Kathleen Kennedy had with respect to the Force is female, I could buy everything that you said completely, and I wouldn't have an issue, and I could give her the benefit of the doubt very easy. I'm like, okay, I understand. You probably thought this was the best thing to do, and it didn't turn out right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, after The Last Jedi crashed and burned, and all the outrage from that, you couldn't say, you know what, we need to learn from that and try to fix things. But instead, it's like they just push the pedal, all the way to the ground and completely just.
Yeah, because they didn't want to admit it. Because they didn't want to admit that they screwed up. She was given this great opportunity, and all she had on her record was a lot of money from The Force Awakens and Rogue One, and then failure after failure after failure. And Rogue One wasn't really that great because she had to fire people from that too.
It's like that Rogue One. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, and it was, it was okay. It's like it wasn't, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was.
I think a lot of people would.
Solo.
It was, and I think.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the thing with Rogue One, it did have its faults, it did have its problems, but I can respect it for what they were trying to do. I think they did rewrites. They tried to work as best as possible. Yes, everyone hails the Darth Vader scene, but it's more than that. It was a show of what lengths the rebellion went. Even if I know Jane Erso wasn't really the rebellion, she was only doing it to save face with her father, whatever people have for their opinion.
Yeah,
I can respect it because I enjoyed what I got from it. I can't say that about Last Jedi. I will not rewatch. You want to know how much I've watched of the Rise of Skywalker? I got to the crawl. And as soon as I saw the crawl that said Emperor Palpatine is tweeting the universe, you know what I did? I'm done. I was out. I
never pushed.
And I turned on DS9.
The pacing is so horrific. It's like watching Steven's light flicker every time he talks.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, okay, we're going here. Now we're going to Endor. Now we're going back to Tatooine. And now we're going to have a seizure. And then all of a sudden Raylo is making out with Kylo Ren, and all the blue angels of the Force Ghosts are going, yeah, stick it in her butt. That's pretty much what it was.
I just honestly, I think if they would, I think
the Force is butt sex.
They don't. Oh God. Okay.
It's pretty much the tone. It's the truth.
They do. It's like they don't trust the fans. And honestly, I think that if they would have trusted the fans enough to say, you know what, we messed up, and the fans would have been like, okay, we got you on that. Fix it, and we're good. But they didn't trust us.
No.
When you even hinted you didn't like something, you got called everything in the book, and not just by randos on Twitter. We're talking about the blue check Lucasfilm mafia that were saying this.
Rian Johnson.
Yes.
Rian Johnson, though, is a different category. The way that I've understood is he only did one script right, and he ignored the notes left by JJ to help make the story. He could have still incorporated whatever notes JJ left if JJ did do that, but he did this not to be a new episode to help it progress the story. He did this to be remembered, and the best way to be remembered by someone is to piss them off. And that's what he did.
That's just laziness.
It was a stab in the back. It was a stab in the heart. It was a stab in the minds of a lot of fans. And then when the divide came, people on either side were so frustrated that if you didn't like this or that, because it brought in the crazies. You remember when the crazies came in, right? To Last Jedi defenses and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It caused the divide. And you were either this, that. And it had nothing to do with that. There was no quality story. I don't give a damn about a silver fox or how many rocks Rey can pick up, or that Luke has to die because he can force project himself across in a Skype call. I don't care. You killed our favorite characters.
Yes,
Yeah.
and not only that, it's not that they killed him, and this was my thing about it.
Sorry.
It's not that he died. It was just a hollow, just disrespectful what they did to the character. It's one thing if the character dies heroically and you respect the character because you respect the sacrifice that happened, and you're kind of just like, okay, they're dead and we don't like it, but this is what came of it, and this was the good that came out of it. When you come out of the movie with like, yeah, you're sad, but you still like the movie and you like what happened. When I came out of Last Jedi, I'm like, who the heck greenlit this?
I refuse to believe that Luke gave into the training that Yoda gave him about fear and tried to kill Kylo. I refuse to accept that Luke became so scared after just opening a new academy that he would let himself doubt. If the Luke I remember would have talked it out. He would have questioned Kylo's intentions. He would have sat down going, do you have doubt in yourself, Kylo? It would have gone from there, and it would have been Ben, not Kylo, or Miley Cyrus Wren, whatever the hell you want to call her. Him. I'm sorry.
You know what Luke would have actually done? Luke would have put somebody else in charge of the academy and went and hunted down Snoke.
If he knew about,
and confronted him. Because he obviously knew, because he said Snoke had already turned him.
Yeah.
And they mentioned the fact that they sent him to train with Luke because of Snoke.
But it feels like they tried to rip off, what was it Revenge of the Sith or the other one where they started clouding, and it was Revenge of the Sith, or was it Attack of the Clones where they tried to start clouding, Palpatine started saying, we're going to start clouding what's really going on. They have no idea what's going on. The Jedi have no idea.
Yeah, it was in the Clone Wars.
It's like they ripped, but it's like they also kind of ripped that off and tried to play it on Luke, like Luke was that daft.
Right.
A clone was able to do this.
And you got to consider, he's old now. He's been traveling around the galaxy, finding holocrons and digging up Jedi lore, and that's how he found the first temple. Yeah. So he knows all this.
Yeah. But at the same time, you wouldn't give in to it because one thing you were always trained. I think this is the way this is my opinion, the way I saw it. You never give up your backbone. What is the back? Not the backbone, but your own will of expecting the unknown. You never let your guard down. Especially with the Jedi. You're always going to be aware because you don't know what is being manipulated or who is manipulating.
Right. And if you read the Revenge of the Sith novel, you get the idea that all those dreams that he had was sent to him from Palpatine.
Yeah.
And he didn't sleep from the time he had the first dream. He never really slept. So that was weeks.
Yeah.
That's why in the movie it seems like he falls so quickly, is because he's just exhausted.
Yeah. See, the thing is that Palpatine was attacking his REMs pretty much.
Yeah.
So he would reach a state of rest, but he would not reach a state of that was actually regenerating himself both mentally and physically in that state. And I think that the whole mother thing, and that's what pushed him over the edge in the Tusken Raiders.
I've honestly given up on movies altogether because I think the last good thing I saw was Joker.
I'd have to say Fat Man. Give Fat Man a chance.
I might.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm going to.
I was going to say Fat
I'm so
Man.
sorry.
I'm excited.
But I never stopped watching Mel. So.
But I agree about no. But just to go to that. But I agree. Joker was the first movie I had seen in a long time. Didn't depend on CGI. If it did, it was extremely subtle, I guess, with like scenery and stuff like that. But the story was about the Joker and the people that he interacted with and the progression of his character, what made him into the Joker, and seeing that journey to by the end of it, you're just like, yeah, he's got a daggone good point. Yeah. And you wind up sympathizing with him. And I couldn't remember the last time I had seen a movie that did that kind of progression. And you have to, and I know you guys remember, they have been trashing this movie for I don't know how long, and all it
because they knew it was good. They knew it was good.
They knew that it was good, and it didn't matter what kind of part of the political spectrum you were on. it was a absolutely amazing
It was.
freaking story.
You don't get many movies nowadays where you get to the end of the movie and you go, did he imagine all that? Was it real to him? Was it real to everybody else? What just happened? And you carried on a conversation for a week.
Yeah.
That's the way stories should affect people.
Yeah, I agree. I watched it. What was I thinking about it maybe a few days ago? I had to rewatch it again, right?
Right.
And the more you watch it, the more you pick up on the subtleties.
Right.
And the way they delved into the fact that is there an actual disease where you just laugh for no reason? Like that to me was mind blowing because I never heard of it before. And when I heard about it again, I was like,
well, it's like I rewatched some Pinky and the Brain because I watched your video the other day, and I'm like, holy shit, Pinky has Tourette's. No, and that's exactly what it is. I went and researched it, and Steven Spielberg made him intentionally have Tourette's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's funny.
And
that's real
Jaws
funny.
was bulimic.
Yeah. Jaws was.
Well, let me ask you this because I have to ask the first question. So, what got you into YouTube specifically?
So, The Last Jedi, I started watching. I always use YouTube to take apart specific things or, use YouTube as a tool. Mm-hmm. But I was bored. So I went on and I found World Class Bullshitters. And I listened to them. I listened to them every morning when he was doing his morning show, when Jeff was doing the morning show. And, threw out a super chat every now and then, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Discovered Jeremy that way. Started listening to Jeremy, and because he was so bombastic that it was just like it was like mother's milk. Is how I grew up. That's how people are.
Yeah.
Mom and dad yell at each other and call each other names, and when one gets tired of it, they just tell each other to shut the feck up. It's that's what my ex-wives never understood. I'm like, it's okay to tell me to shut the F up. I vent. I'm really passionate about everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm loud. And people can't handle that sometimes.
See, that's what I don't understand because I have relatives that are like that. And if you're not loud, something's kind of wrong with you.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we grew up on the farm. Everything was about yelling.
Out there and you're like by yourself because we would have country relatives that would visit us in the suburbs and we're just like, okay, you're going to have to dial it down because we don't want our neighbors calling the cops. They're just like, what? Oh, yeah, they are kind of close to your house.
And my dad always worked in construction. So during the summer, we never had allowance. We never had stuff. My dad had to cut a hole in one of the houses we rented and put a used wood stove in just so we would have heat one winter. We were poor, and he roofed houses. So if us boys didn't get up and go with him and do hard labor like carrying shingles up the ladder, stuff like that, we didn't eat. Mm-hmm. We'd eat red beans and fried potatoes. So my dad was the kind of, we'd eat that for weeks at a time. And my dad was the kind of person that would be, if you were slow, he goes, what the F is wrong with you? Are you stupid? That kind of person.
Yeah.
And that really toughens a kid up. Nowadays, they would consider that verbal abuse.
But it's not. Yeah. You were taking responsibility.
Right. It's like don't be stupid. Mm-hmm. Don't be stupid. I didn't ask for that. I asked for this other thing. Pay attention to what I'm telling you and go do it. But he would be harsher.
Because he was trying to give a life lesson, but at the same time not give you slack. Because if you got slack, you got lazy.
Yeah, right. Some people say it, in different ways. Some people, not everybody's the same when they try to teach that same kind of,
Yeah, and you got to understand, I'm the black sheep. My family are all in construction. My dad built a lawnmower. He welded some metal together, got a bunch of pulleys and stuff, and built a lawnmower that he pulled behind a cow. He got an old engine, put it on there. My brothers and my father can engineer things in their head as they build it. Nice. When I go to do something with my hands, I have to really think about it. because my mind's going off in every different possibility. If I do it this way, what's going to happen? If I do it that way, what's going to happen? So I'm really slow at what I do.
But
Unless
you're
I write.
articulate with it. But you're articulate with it, right? When you're going.
Yeah.
It's the same way when I was building a computer, especially this one, which is recently. I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to break anything because you lose out.
Yeah.
But I get it. You might not be good in one thing or fast in another, but you're always going to have that one skill that makes you you.
Yeah. So I was raised super conservative redneck, but all my friends and everybody, all my interests have been very creative. So I've lived in both sides of the political
Spectrum.
Yeah, all my friends, close friends, were all very liberal, and my family and the way I grew up was very conservative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I voted for Trump in 2016, I lost almost every friend I had.
Wow.
Do you
Yeah.
regret it?
No.
Good. Then
I made an oath in 1995 when I went in the military. I made an oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I was separated from the military doesn't mean that oath expired. So I encourage everybody to vote who they think is best. I'm not telling anybody who to vote for. I'm voting for Trump because I believe that's where our country needs to go. But if you believe that that's somebody else, then by all means, it's your vote.
Exactly.
See,
it's like the thing is to
sorry.
actually participate in voting, because you have some of these people who are just like, oh, well, your vote doesn't count, so I'm not gonna vote. And it's like, okay, do you realize that everything that went into giving you the privilege to vote, and the people who fought to preserve that privilege to vote, and you're just going to toss it out, and then you complain when things aren't going the way that they think that you think that they should go. I said, there's no way I am not going to vote.
Right.
At all. That is too serious of
my son.
Too serious of a privilege for me to just throw.
He voted for the first time, and I asked him who he voted for. He goes, "I left the president blank and voted for all the conservatives locally." I'm like, "Why'd you leave the president blank?" He gets like, "Because I haven't been paying attention."
That's an honest vote, though.
Gotta give him credit for that. Yeah.
See, that's the thing, though, especially when it comes to voting. The way things are going now is like if you don't vote the way I vote, you're all of a sudden evil. And voting is the same thing as free choice, free will, and free speech.
Exactly.
In my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's on paper, out of your mouth, or in a painting. It's still yours because it's your free thought. And it's like the generation that's coming up, especially the Twitter psycho fans, whatever you want to call them, are neglecting this unless it fits their narrative.
Because they don't understand a basic concept of the universe. There is an off button.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, turn it off.
If you don't like what he says, you ignore it.
Exactly. And that's how it used to be. It's like you didn't like something, you flip the channel. Something offended you, stop listening, turn it off or whatever. Now it's just like they want to filter what you see, filter what you listen to. It used to be at the end of the day, we were all Americans. We could fight with each other, but whoever was fighting us, we unite together to fight against them. No matter where you were on the political spectrum, in the end, we respected each other as Americans, and now that's completely out of the window now.
There's also one more thing. I hate to cut you off, Jack. 1 second.
Go ahead.
There's also another thing. You know how there's two things. There's one thing, like you said, you can ignore it, right? But the other side is you can ask why and listen and try to understand their point of view, because that is also a very smart thing, because you're not just saying ignored. You're trying to understand another human being's perspective, and that causes communication, which then causes debate, and it then causes reasoning and acceptance. And from that, you can build with another person, and it's like a pay it forward. But you're doing it with communication and understanding. And this is where we are losing ourselves. Communication in talk.
Well, and it's like my dad asked me, he goes, "Why are you being so political?" I'm like, because everything is political. I can't get away from it. So, like, you go to my channel, there's a story called War Story. And it is about Afghanistan. It is a group of guys from one person's point of view, a teenager's point of view who just got in the military. He's on a patrol. They get shot at. He dies. And it tells it from his point of view. He's like, I'm here because I joined the military to go to college. And now I'm finding out that I don't even need a college degree. I was lied to get me to come here. And now I'm scared to death. And this is blah, blah, blah. And then after he dies, it switches to the point of view of the person who kills him, whose village was accidentally bombed by a drone strike that the Americans failed. So he's hate in his heart, and he's getting revenge, and he is in the right from his point of view because his family was killed. That's how everything should be approached. Everything should have both sides. And that was me showing my way of trying to understand somebody else's point of view. I wrote it out myself. You know, and then I put it on YouTube to encourage people to say, hey, I don't agree with that. Or, hey, this is what I would have done differently. That kind of thing.
Tap, 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 tap.
To me, evil is an illusion. Evil is a choice. Everybody on this planet has a choice. If you choose to be selfish, it most likely is going to lead to evil. Anything bad that happens to people that isn't a natural disaster was caused by somebody's choice. That means that if we are determined to choose to do the right thing, then evil is nothing more than an illusion. That's why it's always in the shadow. And that's what I try to express with the stories.
But wouldn't you also say that evil and good is still a construct of man, and at the end, it's all about perception? That's just
no.
I'm saying no.
No, because because I've been all over the world. Go on and watch documentaries about these cultures that are in South America that have never seen the outside world before. They treat their children just like we do. They treat murderers just like we do. They treat each other pretty morally similar. That tells me that morality isn't a construct. It is a basic human natural tendency.
Okay.
And religion, which is oftentimes assigned to where we get our morality, is actually just mankind's explanation for the way that we interpret the universe and we feel. I'm a Christian, I believe, but I also believe that the Islamic faith, the Buddhist faith, all these major faiths are just human beings coming from a region of the world that is different from mine, interpreting God in the way that their environment had them interpret it. So I don't agree with certain tenets of other religions. I can respect them because they're seeing something I see.
And one of the things that is wonderful and unique about this country is that we have freedom of religion, not from religion, but there's freedom of religion. So long as you submit to the Constitution and the laws of this country, you can pretty much have a religion worshiping potted plants for the most part.
And we
but
do.
In some countries, you can't. Like the chia pet.
I was thinking of other kind of potted plants.
Oh, blazing trees.
There you go.
But we do here, and this country gets United States. It gets trashed so much about that. But it's true. There's other countries where you can't go and you can't do that. There's an established state religion. Basically, if you're not this religion, guess what? You don't have access to certain social services. Like I've heard of that, like over in India, you have some Indians who are Christians, and because they are and they're not Hindu, they don't have access to certain social services over there. So it's like I tell people, you can try to. The United States has had its problems, has had its historical problems, but still, there are things here that could never be done other places, and why so many people come here. Some people die trying to come here.
Oh yeah, when I got out of the military, I was my last duty station. I did a TDY at Kadena in Okinawa. I had 30 days of leave because you don't ever use your leave really,
Hmm.
especially when you're overseas. So I signed up for something called a food tour, and I spent 3 weeks traveling from host family to host family across Asia, trying their food. I would stay with a host family for a few
Wow,
days, try their
sounds
food.
good.
When we got to China, they couldn't even speak to me without looking to a government official and getting approval to say things to me.
Mm.
That's crazy. People have no idea what it's like. I mean, there's outright slavery going on right now in Africa, in the Sudan and places like that.
Oh
There,
yes.
there's the Chinese are killing and putting Muslims in concentration camps.
Hmm? Which Disney filmed on a location. You did, and then you told them thank you.
Yeah,
You know.
and I think what's going to happen. This virus is a godsend for Disney because they were already starting to lose money. I don't know how the heck their stock prices have stayed up,
It's
but
weird.
eventually they're going to come back when all this is over and put their hand out to the government. That's why that's one of the reasons I voted for Trump is because they don't need the money. They need to
Yeah.
start over.
They do, and it's interesting that you should say that because the stock and I was actually talking with Culture about this when the Q3 earnings call came out and all of that bad news, and the stock price went up, and we were kind of like, this makes no sense. Why is the stock price going up? In all reality, it should be going down.
I wouldn't be
The
surprised
stock
if
is overvalued.
the FCC starts investigating them
Oh,
because it doesn't
they
make
have.
sense.
They have. There's a whistleblower
Yeah.
that supposedly she got let go, but no, she's a whistleblower about what was going on, and I believe it's on, if it's not being actively investigated now, it's on the SEC's docket. So yeah, they've already got that going on for cooking the books. But there's no logical reason why the stock price should be as high as it is. Sane investors are just like, you know what, if you have that stock, hold on to it. If you're thinking about buying, don't do it now.
Yeah, I
Don't
mean,
do it now.
my dad asked me, he goes, "What do you think about um, switching over to some Disney stock because it stayed high?" And I'm like, "Don't.
No,
They can't even release a movie."
they
Nope.
can't. And they pulled the dividends for the stockholders. So the stockholders weren't getting their dividends, and we've gotten a dividend. I know I bought in, and I want to say 2010, right before they bought Marvel. I bought in. So the stock was like $30. It wasn't backbreaking,
Hmm.
to buy. Disney seemed like they were on the right path. They were doing stuff pretty good. $30. Yeah, okay. Go and buy a couple, the stock and just hold it. But it's gotten so inflated. It's just no. What are you? It's like artificially inflated.
Yeah.
When I look at it, it's like, what are they producing? Their parks are the only things that are supposedly making money. Only Disney World is making some money because the other parks are shutting down, and they've made crappy decisions like buying Fox, crapping on their IPs like Star Wars, which they have gotten dinged in many investor calls about that.
Deleting episodes of a series that they accosted. They're changing and CGIing stuff, even if
Oh
it's a
yeah.
butt cheek. They're not only changing history like the way it's going on Twitter with people trying to ignore history. They're changing the history in film and television that has no need to be changed because no one gives a damn if you cover a butt cheek or not. It's a part of a movie. It was done a certain way, and you're taking it away from the director, whether it be television, it be a play, it be anything. You can't keep altering the
Mm.
past to suit your needs because then it's no longer history. It is just a fabrication of a story.
Exactly, which is why so many people, and StoryManJack, you're probably in on this too, are really buying up a lot of physical media
Oh
Hell
yeah.
yes.
because once it's digital, they can manipulate it
Yeah,
however, however they
I've still
want.
got my box set of VHS Star Wars.
Ooh,
I
mine are in
still
storage
have
too.
I still have the original soundtracks on vinyl for
Yeah,
Clockwork Orange, American Graffiti, and Return of the Jedi.
I would not get rid of any physical media. At one time, I was thinking about getting rid of my VHS because I had Blu-ray. So I was like, I don't think I need it. I just pack it up, threw it in the storage. I'm probably going to be keeping that for quite some time
but
now.
yeah, so like I said, it's weird. I grew up where we used fallen branches to pretend we had guns,
Yep.
and now I work for an IT company and I have a a $3,000 computer set up, and I'm connected to everything everywhere. The reason I started posting stories to my channel
Hmm.
is because you can't get published anymore.
Outside of
Well,
self-publishing.
so Stephen King got started,
Hmm.
and everybody in the generation leading up to the 2000s got started by writing short stories, like I do,
Hmm.
and they would submit those short stories to magazines, Penthouse, Playboy, all kind. I mean, there was a every. It seemed like every county had its own like fiction magazine. So you would get published. You would send your stories out to these magazines. You would get published and build up credentials that way, a portfolio. And then you would shop for an agent. You would give them your credentials. Here's where I've been published. Here's my works. And they would start shopping your story idea around to publishers and you would get published. There aren't magazines anymore. There's no place to publish. The magazines that do exist, like Realms of Fantasy, Asimov's, they have staff writers. They don't take uh, unknown writer submissions anymore. So the only way you get discovered is if you know somebody or if you build up a following and self-publish. So I figure in a few years I'll self-publish a novel. But in the meantime, I most of these short stories are background stories for a novel I wrote that set up rules and characters and things.
Hmm.
So starting probably next week, I will be releasing that entire novel as a weekly episodic story
Oh, cool.
because I make plenty of money doing my job
Hmm.
and I want to give this to the community.
That sounds commendable. It's a lot of things. You're giving a part of yourself to the community and hope they enjoy it.
Yep.
It's great. And honestly, when those episodes come rolling out, you're gonna get a thank you from me because you're opening yourself up. Like I said to Kai, you're opening yourself up and you're sharing your universe with the rest of us. And we should be just as thankful as you are thankful for us reading it. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So here is StoryManJack's channel. Please do subscribe if you have not subscribed, and check out all the great stuff that he has on there. Yeah, what are you? 201. Yep. I love bringing because I know I was talking with Steven about this earlier. I love bringing people on who you see so much in the chat, because that way kind of putting the face or the
Yeah.
voice to someone in the chat and then linking it to their channel really gives you, a lot of visibility. Even if some people don't want to subscribe right away,
Right.
they make that mental link, with who you are. And we need so many more independent voices out there, independent writers out there who aren't part of, I call it like that inbred
Yeah.
kind of literary thing that's going on. It's like we need,
Whisper Network.
And
like that.
I have plenty of audio stories on here, but also I have on here my if there's a creation series playlist
Okay, here, let me
that where I go from concept. Yeah, there's 12
here we
videos in
go.
there.
Okay.
I go from concept, like I took She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron. and took that poem to inspire a story idea. I have the videos on brainstorming, writing what it's going to be, character creation, plotting it out a little bit, that kind of thing, all the way up till A Thief's Tale is the final story written from that idea. And it's basically Frankenstein. So it's also in the horror playlist. And like I tell people all the time, you don't have to watch this stuff. I a lot of times will just connect my phone to my Bluetooth speaker, start cooking dinner, and listen to one of these stories on that way.
Yeah, one of the things that I started doing, so glad I got these Bluetooth. I can like run people's playlists and be off doing whatever it is,
Yep.
that I need to do. But these are great because I keep hearing about it. I'm like, okay, I need to sit down, hit the playlist. Okay, good. I'm still subscribed because YouTube's
Yeah.
been unsubscribing people.
I noticed that. And then, like I said, the horror stories, I've been trying to push those out for tonight. And I'll say it here for all you guys are on your live streams tonight. If you guys want to play one of these, just to have a horror thing going, I would recommend. Which one is it? What's it called? It's called Night Terror. It's like 3 minutes. It's a very short story.
Where's that one?
It'll be in the horror playlist.
Okay. Okay, so we're under horror stories.
Yeah, this.
Okay, so there's Night Terror.
Yeah, Night Terror is a very short one. It's 7 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes.
Not at all.
And I don't re-listen to a lot of my stuff because I hate the sound of my own voice.
I
Now,
know, I do too.
Well, you got to keep in mind, I grew up as a redneck, so my accent, my Texas drawl comes out sometimes, and I hate it. Absolutely despise it. People tell me I have a good voice, but I despise it. I spent much of my youth trying to get rid of it.
It's funny because when I hear like accents like yours, and even when some stuff slips out with Christy, it's
Yeah.
like it reminds me of my relatives from the South. So for
Yeah.
me, it's very comforting, to hear that.
Yeah, I just found out Christy was. I don't think she lives that far away from me. I'm only
Really?
I'm only like 40 miles north of Dallas.
Wow.
So yeah, it's funny.
That is good. I'm not going to start singing "It's a Small World" because I hate
Yeah.
that freaking
It's a small world
There you go.
after all.
That's worse than waterboarding somebody.
It is.
It's a
And,
small
and I've been
world
waterboarded, so I know.
That's right, because they do that to you guys.
Well, this is getting an 18 plus after that.
Probably.
Which reminds me, some of you people in the 13 to 17-year-old age group that have been watching my videos,
Runner.
what are you doing watching my stuff?
Runner.
It's Runner.
Runner.
It's
Yeah,
Runner.
it's Runner.
He's just rewatching them.
It was good because we were playing Among Us last night, right? And he's like, "Hey, I got back 2 of my subs," and I was like, "Oh, your parents resubbed? Congratulations!"
Oh no!
We'll
See,
have
that's
to
the other
get-
thing about this community is we can make fun of one another.
Oh, bro, it was brutal. He was getting the short end of the stick from Ords and everyone, but he could
Okay.
take it.
Dang.
That's one thing we love about, I'm going to give Cooper the benefit of the doubt. He is one of those younger generations that has a backbone. He can take a joke. He could take the rising from everyone else. Because you know what's going to happen when we go on to our own thing and he has his whatever channel about running on the spot? He's going to have the same group of people and the same one young guy. He's going to do the same thing to them because he's going to train them how to have a backbone.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that is something that's like your tradition. And it's
Yeah.
not like he's writing on MySpace going, "Tom, they won't leave me alone. They keep thinking I'm running in one spot and I can't get the Chromebook to show my actual skin tone." He's not going to be that.
We'll have to get him on a recording, but put him in
We
a
will.
bubble.
When he hits 18. I told him when he hits 18 we will.
Good.
Yeah, there you go.
As soon as
So
he hits 18, dude, we
Yeah.
got your spot.
He's
We
going
got
to
your
love
spot.
this part of the episode too. He's like, "Why are they saying like, why are they bringing this up? What are they doing to me right now?" That's great.
Because we love you, man.
It's like when my son turned 18, he's like, I'm like, are you glad to be 18? You're finally an adult. He goes, I can smoke and I can vote.
You
Why?
drink.
I mean, he's like, that's not a big deal. I'm not gonna smoke, and I'm not gonna. I don't really care about politics. So it's just another birthday to me.
Oh
See,
man.
for me, my birthday was never much, but even with mine, I expect like certain family just to remember it,
Yeah, yeah.
just because it's tradition. But even when your family starts to not remember it, you start thinking, "What have I done?" And it's kind of a weird mindset to have.
Yeah, well,
I got dark. I don't know why I'm keep getting dark. Ah, it's a small world after all.
because you
Oh
keep
Lord,
thinking
that's gonna make it worse.
that.
But one of the things that I love about this fandom, it's like even if, your biological family is acting up or whatever, people in the fandom have your back. It's like even if you don't want them to remember stuff like your birthday,
Yeah.
they don't care. They'll remind you about it anyway and bring in a couple of their friends and play
Yeah.
jokes on you about your birthday and you know and all of that. So it's really
Well,
it's
and
it's really cool.
they said something on Friday Night Tots last night that was really profound. They're arguing about details of the Mandalorian,
Hmm.
right? And then somebody stops and says, "Do y'all even remember the last time we were arguing about actual fan stuff and not politics inside
Yeah.
of Star Wars?"
That's the funny
Wow.
part. Cause it's true though. Cause even us, we didn't bring up any of the politics. So Favreau might have even nailed it. We're more focused on the
Exactly.
misplacing of music. So guess
Hmm.
what?
That's what gives me
He nailed
hope.
it. Yeah.
That's what gives me hope.
It
So
gives
long
me
as they don't
hope.
come in and start
Boba
messing with
Fett.
it.
Now
Yeah.
do the rotor job, but I think I will give Favreau the benefit of the doubt with this. And it seems like he's doing what he can. He may not be able to move the whole thing right away.
Favreau's always
Well,
told good stories.
yeah, and
He always has.
it's even I tell people the rest of the series freaking sucks. But if you watch the first episode, if you ever watch it on Disney Plus, but behind the scenes about the Mandalorian,
Hmm.
and John Favreau starts talking about how he got into Star Wars and just how much he reveres George Lucas
Hmm.
and his vision. It's like we've got somebody who knows what it's like to truly be a fan. And if you watch him in those episodes where all the other directors and SFX people are around him and he's talking, they're like all engaged about what Star Wars and all that is. Until Kathleen Kennedy opens her mouth and they're kind of just like, why are you
Yeah,
here?
I
Anyway.
you, that's why I try to give it a benefit of the doubt. Whenever I see something I don't like or something that just hits me as odd, I'm like, that's the other faction because he's got to
Somebody
give and take.
somebody has a phone call.
Exactly. It's a
Sorry, it was me.
It's
That's okay.
okay.
It's a balancing act, but yeah, like with what happened on Friday Night Tights, where it's like, man, we're actually having a geek argument, and nothing about it is political right now. So
Right.
A
let's just
second.
hope we can keep having
The other thing I'd like to
more
add,
of those.
I'd like to ask you guys both a question. How mad do you think Stig is right now?
He's-
Yeah, everyone's like, shit.
I think the whole fandom world collectively went, "Oh, that's
Oh,
not
you
gonna
didn't do it, Tom. You did not do that. Because even
He
Chrissy's
did
like, did
it.
you hear what Tom did? And we all had the same, like, oh no. Because you could feel like there was a Death Star powering up in Norway.
Mhm.
And he was like, where's Tom?
yeah.
I'm going to get that bastard.
It's just gonna be funny to find
But
out
look
what he
at you
does.
guys. That's another thing with the fandom. You guys can see this, and you're laughing at that too because we're all interconnected in that way.
Right.
Because because Sting wouldn't even get angry. He'd be like, "Tom, what'd you do? What'd you do? You swamp ass? What'd you do?" And he would go full on Christy mode on Tom, and it'd be great because
Yes.
he doesn't really mean it, but his monotone never changes, and it's one of the things
Mhm.
I love about Sting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I might
Exactly.
steal the Michael Jackson joke once in a while, but because it's good, because it's so ignorant.
It's like when you get Stig and Andre both on a stream.
Yeah.
It's just a riot. It's just amazing.
I love getting Andre to say weird super chats. So I'll be like, "Hey Andre," and I'll be like, "Hey, my waistline's under siege and stuff," and you'll have to say it.
Yeah.
And I like doing that because I'd rather make someone smile because it reminds everyone that you got to have fun. Everyone needs to have fun.
That's why we watch different people. We watch Mary for the fun. We watch, um,
Fatal J for the koala memes.
yeah, or Drunk just to see what he's going to say next.
Exactly.
You know, and Drunk is such a beautiful person. You can't help but love Drunk. You just can't. He's the kind of person you wish you were. You know what I mean?
I wish he would cuddle with me once. You know, we're gonna get him on the show eventually. But I think he's like a big teddy bear. I think he would hug like the way Abu hugs. It would be just all warm and safe, and they'll take your wallet and run away. But
he's good security. He's 6'4".
So am I.
I've met him. He's good.
Oh,
I
yeah?
know you have. Yeah. Reina also brought up a cool fact about Drunk. He can inhale pizza like a shop vac.
Yes.
I used to be able to do that.
But he was very polite. Like you're gonna eat that last slice. Nah, you go ahead, dude. You go ahead and get it.
Yeah.
So with that, folks, thank you so much, StoryManJack, for recording with us.
Oh well, thank you for having me.
A joy to have you on, and just to have fun, kick back, let people in the fandom know about you. And again, definitely, please subscribe to StoryManJack's channel. Get plugged in, run his playlists and all that, and tell Gail Simone said thank you for sending me to StoryManJack's channel.
Absolutely.
I have one
I honestly was going to thank her, but she had already blocked me. I was like, I can't believe you just did that.
Well, that's what happens when you block the blessings, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on our next broadcast. Bye.
Good night.
Adios, amigos, because it's a